It's in the name.
Great Scott, the flux capacitor is charged, the DeLorean is idling, and we've punched in a new destination, the 1997 college football season. This was the year when Michigan's defense was suffocating opponents. Nebraska was closing the curtain on Tom Osborne's legendary career, and the biggest debate in America wasn't whether Jack could have fit on the door in Titanic. It was whether Michigan or Nebraska deserved to be called national champion. Back then, the Bowl Alliance was supposed to help college football crown a true number one. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Because while Michigan was celebrating a Rose Bowl victory over Washington State, Nebraska was dismantling Tennessee in the Orange Bowl. Warms my heart. The polls split, the trophy split, and one of the greatest arguments in college football history was born. Meanwhile, Titanic was breaking box office records, people were tying up the family phone line to connect to the internet, and sports fans were watching Brett Favre and the Green Bay Packers try to defend their Super Bowl crown. But today, we're rewriting history. We're taking the entire 1997 season and dropping it straight into the modern 12-team college football playoff. No bowl tie-ins, no split championships, no coaches casting votes after the games are over, just 12 teams, a bracket, and the answer to a question college football fans have been arguing about for nearly 3 decades. So hold on tight, we're bending the timeline just a little bit. Because for the first time ever, Michigan and Nebraska are going to have to settle this on the field. Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads. Let's build the bracket. Number 1, Michigan Wolverines. Number 2, the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Number 3, Tennessee Vols. Number 4, the Florida State Seminoles. Number 5, the UCLA Bruins. Number 6, the Florida Gators. Number 7, the North Carolina Tar Heels. Number 8, Wazoo Cougars. Number 9, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Number 10, the Kansas State Wildcats. Number 11, the Penn State Nittany Lions. And number 12, Colorado State. And the first team out are the Georgia Bulldogs. Let's play/simulate football. In the first round, we have UCLA versus Colorado State. As Colorado State arrives in Pasadena as one of the great underdogs of the season. Early on, the Rams shocked the Bruins. Moses Marino finds Jeff Turner for a 42-yard touchdown, and suddenly UCLA is tied at 7 after 1 quarter. But eventually, Cade McNown and Skip Hicks take over. Hicks pounds out 134 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, while McCown throws for 285 and 3 scores. UCLA's superior speed begins showing up in the second half. The Bruins score 10 unanswered in the third quarter and pull away. Final score, UCLA 38, Colorado State 24, as the Bruins advance to face Michigan. McNown MVP. Next up, we have Florida State versus Penn State at the Swamp in Gainesville, Florida. Steve Spurrier versus Joe Paterno, an absolute coaching classic. Florida jumps ahead when Fred Taylor breaks loose for a 56-yard touchdown run. Penn State responds behind Curtis Enos and ties the game in the second quarter, but Florida's speed eventually proves too much. Doug Johnson connects with Jaquez Green on a deep touchdown strike. The Gators force 3 turnovers. Fred Taylor rushes for 167 yards, and Florida wins 31-20. The reward for Florida and Steve Spurrier and MVP Fred Taylor, a trip to face Florida State. Next up, we have Kansas State versus North Carolina at Kenan Memorial Stadium in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. This becomes the Michael Bishop show. The Kansas State quarterback scores twice in the opening quarter and constantly creates problems for the Tar Heels. North Carolina does keep answering. Every time Kansas State builds a lead, Chris Keldorf brings North Carolina back. The game is tied at 27 late in the fourth quarter. Then Bishop marches the Wildcats 75 yards, 9 yards from the end zone, and he keeps the ball himself. Touchdown. Kansas State goes on the road and survives 34-27. Next up, we have Ohio State traveling to Martin Stadium in Pullman, Washington to take on Washington State Cougars. Maybe the most entertaining first-round game. Ryan Leaf versus Joe Germain, future NFL first-rounders all over the field. Washington State races out to a 14-7 lead. Leaf is dealing, but Jermaine answers. David Boston makes big catch after big catch. The game swings repeatedly in the second half. Finally, with 32 seconds left, Ohio State kicker Dan Stultz drills the game winner. Buckeyes 30, Cougars 28, and Ohio State advances. Next, we have the quarterfinals with Michigan Wolverines versus the UCLA Bruins at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. The Bruins playing at home again, and they arrive with one of the nation's most explosive offenses. Unfortunately for UCLA, they now have to face the best defense in America. Charles Woodson immediately makes his presence felt. He intercepts Cade McCown in the second quarter. Later, he flips the field position with a huge punt return. Brian Griese plays mistake-free football. Chris Howard grinds out tough yards, and Michigan slowly squeezes the life out of the game. Final score, Michigan 27, UCLA 17, as the Wolverines move on. Next, we have Florida State versus Florida at the Orange Bowl in Miami Gardens, Florida. The third installment of the rivalry in 12 months. Peter Warrick becomes the star. The Seminoles receiver repeatedly burns the Gator secondary. Fred Taylor keeps Florida alive on the ground. The game goes back and forth all afternoon. Then late in the fourth quarter, Warrick makes a spectacular sideline catch, and Florida State marches down the field for a touchdown, and the Seminoles win 28-24. Next, we have the Tennessee Volunteers versus Kansas State Wildcats at the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. Peyton Manning enters the playoff and immediately reminds everyone he's one of the greatest quarterbacks in college football history. Disgusting. Manning throws 4 touchdowns. Marcus Nash catches 2 of them. Kansas State hangs around thanks to Michael Bishop, but Tennessee simply has too much firepower. Jamal Lewis seals the game with a long fourth quarter touchdown run. Volunteers 38, Wildcats 24. Next, we have Nebraska versus Ohio State in the Fiesta Bowl in Tempe, Arizona. Ohio State has talent. Nebraska has a machine. Ahman Green runs for 201 yards. Scott Frost controls the game with Nebraska's option attack. The Cornhuskers dominate time of possession and wear down the Buckeyes. Nebraska wins 35-21, and suddenly we have the Final Four everyone wanted: Michigan, Florida State, Nebraska, and Tennessee. Most everybody wanted. I didn't want Tennessee anywhere near a national championship. But anyways, I digress. Michigan versus Florida State in the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, Georgia. This feels like a heavyweight fight. Florida State lands the first punch. Peter Warrick scores early, but Michigan never panics. Charles Woodson intercepts Thad Busby. Chris Howard pounds away at the Seminole defense, and the Wolverines score 24 unanswered points after falling behind 13. Michigan's defense forces 3 turnovers. The nation's top-ranked defense delivers again. Michigan wins 24-13. Next, we have Nebraska versus Tennessee in the Cotton Bowl in Arlington, Texas. Scott Frost, Peyton Manning, Cotton Bowl atmosphere, national championship feel. Tennessee throws punches all night. Manning finishes with 368 yards and 3 touchdowns, but Nebraska's rushing attack refuses to blink. Ahman Green runs for 221 yards. The Cornhuskers control the line of scrimmage. A late Green run sets up the winning score as Nebraska survives 34-27. And now, the game. The game college football fans waited decades to see. Michigan, Nebraska, winner takes all. Out in Fiesta Bowl in Tempe, Arizona again, January 1st, 1998. No split title, no polls, no excuses, 60 minutes to decide a champion. Nebraska strikes first. Ahman Green caps an 80-yard drive with a touchdown. Michigan answers with a field goal. In the second quarter, Brian Griese finds Jeremy Tooman for a touchdown. Then Charles Woodson changes everything, as he often does. The Heisman winner intercepts Scott Frost and sets up another Michigan score, and at halftime, Michigan leads 13-10. Nebraska responds in the third quarter. Green scores again. The Cornhuskers reclaim momentum. Early in the fourth quarter, Nebraska extends the lead 20-16. Michigan is in trouble. Then comes the defining play of the season. With just over 8 minutes left, Woodson fields a punt. He slips through traffic, finds daylight, and returns it 54 yards into Nebraska territory. The Wolverines capitalize. Chris Howard crashes into the end zone from 3 yards out, and Michigan leads 23-20. Nebraska has one final chance. Scott Frost drives the Cornhuskers into Michigan territory. Less than a minute remains. 4th and 8. Michigan 33-yard line. Frost drops back. Defensive tackle Glenn Steele bursts through. Sack. Ball game. Michigan wins 23-20. Headline reads in Ann Arbor News on January 2nd, 1998, Michigan settles the debate. Wolverines defeat Nebraska 23-20 for undisputed national championship. For one unforgettable night in the desert, there was no need for polls, opinions, split championships, or endless debates. The Michigan Wolverines are the undisputed national champions. Behind a dominant defensive effort, another legendary performance from Charles Woodson, and a fourth-quarter touchdown run by Chris Howard, number 1 Michigan defeated number 2 Nebraska 23-20, right in a national television audience eager to see college football's two giants finally settle the question that had loomed over the entire season. For years to come, Michigan fans will remember where they were when the debate ended. "We knew this was the game everyone wanted," Michigan head coach Lloyd Carr said. "Our players embraced that challenge from the beginning. They believed they were in the best team in the country, and tonight they proved it." Nebraska entered the game with the nation's most feared rushing attack and a 13-game winning streak. Led by quarterback Scott Frost and running back Almon Green, the Cornhuskers challenged Michigan's top-ranked defense throughout the evening. Green rushed for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns, helping Nebraska build a 26-16 lead early in the fourth quarter. At that point, it appeared the Cornhuskers were on their way to another national title. Then Charles Woodson changed the game. With just over 8 minutes remaining, Woodson fielded a Nebraska punt near midfield, slipped through the first wave of coverage, and sprinted 54 yards into Cornhusker territory. The return ignited the Michigan sideline and set up the drive that would define the season. A few plays later, Howard powered into the end zone from 3 yards out, giving the Wolverines a 23-20 advantage. "That's what great players do," Carr said. "When the moment is biggest, they find a way to impact the game." Woodson's contributions went far beyond the return. The Heisman Trophy winner intercepted Frost in the second quarter, broke up 2 passes, and repeatedly disrupted Nebraska's offense. Quarterback Brian Griese delivered another steady performance, completing 17 of 27 passes for 206 yards and a touchdown. His 24-yard scoring strike to tight end Jeremy Tooman in the second quarter gave Michigan its first lead of the night. After Nebraska narrowed the margin to 3 points with a field goal early in the fourth quarter, Michigan's defense faced one final challenge. Starting at midfield with less than a minute remaining, Frost guided the Cornhuskers into Michigan territory. The Wolverines appeared on the verge of surrendering one last scoring opportunity. Instead, defensive tackle Glenn Steele delivered the season's final statement. Facing 4th and 8 at the Michigan 33-yard line, Frost dropped back looking for a receiver downfield. Steele burst through the line and wrapped up the quarterback for a drive-ending sack, sending the Michigan sideline into celebration. As the final seconds expired, players poured out onto the field while thousands of Michigan fans erupted in cheers. For a team that entered the season with questions about its offense and a defense determined to establish itself among the greatest in school history, the championship served as validation of everything the Wolverines had accomplished. Michigan finished the season 15-0 and became the first undefeated Wolverine team since 1948. More importantly, there will be no argument this time, no shared trophy, no split vote, no unanswered questions. The Wolverines beat Nebraska head-to-head and claimed college football's ultimate prize. For Michigan fans, that is a championship no one can dispute. And just like that, one of the greatest arguments in sports history disappears. No split championships, no debate, no polls deciding the outcome. Michigan finishes 15-0. Nebraska finishes 14-1. Charles Woodson leaves college football with a Heisman Trophy instead of Peyton Manning, as it should always be, an undisputed national championship, and a performance that cements his legacy as one of the greatest players in the history of the sport. Would Michigan really have beaten Nebraska? We'll never know. But in our playoff simulation, the Wolverines finally settled the debate on the field.